This is weird, but have you ever tried hard on a submaximal climb like it was a totally limit project? Like say for example, you climb V8 and you proceed to go all out and even further beyond and evacuate the area for everyone's safety and not your own, just so you can obliterate a V5? From your perspective, is that a waste of energy or a good move? Well, in my humble true opinion, I think it's a phenomenal move. I like to look at it this way. I am a big famished cat. No matter if I hunt the big prey or the small prey, I will approach it the exact same way. I hold nothing back because, just like a big famished cat, the more you practice perfect hunting technique with nothing held back, the higher the percentage of the kill goes up. Also, I'm a big famished cat. No kills means I starve to death, and that's no fun considering I'm a big famished cat. Meow. So on the wall currently, I'm trying to create a shift in thinking in my ways of climbing. No matter how hard or easy the climb is, I am going to tackle it with the utmost of my utmost abilities as maximally as possible. But I do say it is a bit ridiculous to try maximally hard on a V1 when you can climb V10. So I have to flip the switch that dictates I try hard. And for me, it's at around V4 and 5 that makes it logical. And what I have noticed is that I am much more efficient at climbing. Instead of climbing with super straight arms, an unnecessarily large amount of foot moves, I can just pull a little bit harder and finish quicker. Though you might think that this isn't very energy efficient, and I found no, it's actually much more efficient. Taking 60 seconds on a climb going slow and at half power is more tiring than taking 30 seconds on a climb and using maximum output of power. The way I see it, every single climb has a numerical value attached to it. That numerical value represents the amount of downward force points that is necessary to send the climb. DFP for short. For example, and let's use easy numbers for this example. Move 0, just to establish, is 5 downward force points. Move 1, here to here, is 10 DFP. Move 2 is 5. Move 3, 13. Move 4, 9. Move 5 is a 10. Move 6 for the match is a 5. So for this problem, according to quick math, you would need a total of 47 downward force points DFP to have any hopes of actually completing it at a minimum. Now, producing and maintaining are two different things. Producing is dynamic. You have to be in motion to produce DFP. If you are simply just holding a hold, while yes, you are indeed exerting downward force to maintain that position you're in, you are not in motion, so that counts as 0 DFP. And while maintaining a static position counts for 0 DFP, it does indeed count for slowly losing stamina. So ideally, you want to be in a state where you're constantly producing DFP. So because we boulder, or I mostly boulder, the aim is to produce as much DFP as possible, as quickly as possible, with 0 downtime so that you don't run out of stamina. So it's kind of like a balance of stamina versus DFP, except it's kind of not. Honestly, I think we can all concur that climbing swiftly and quickly is way more efficient than climbing slowly and slowly. And now, of course, I'm not going to neglect that climbing with more speed does inherently force you to climb with more power. So climbing a problem that requires 100 DFP might result in you climbing with a usage power output of 120 DFP if you're to climb it swiftly. And obviously that is excessive, more than necessary amount of energy being produced. But does it really matter if at the end of the day you got the sin? I argue no. At the end of the day, it's the big famished cat killing the prey that matters, not how much energy is saved while doing it. And by doing something quickly and with speed, you inadvertently do it the most efficient way as well. This is what I want to touch on from a I feel point of view. The moment I stopped trying to be perfect with my technique and using as little strength as possible was the moment my climbing became very efficient. The thought process of letting go of holding back goes a little something like this for me. Step 0, use everything I have. I whisper to myself something along the lines of, make sure my bones and tendons break from the sheer amount of force I am about to exert upon my body. I say that and you're like, that's a bit overboard. No? Now I obviously don't want that to happen, but what I allow myself to do when I tell myself things like snap the tendons is giving myself permission to use it all, to not hold back and to use without the fear of repercussions. And I honestly find that when I don't hold back, my body feels good, much better than if I was trying to hold myself back. I conclude this, it is because by constantly engaging all my big musculars that I provide a cushion of shock absorption anytime I need to exert force. So instead of it falling upon my joints and tendons, my muscles takes most of the blunt force. I would liken it akin to, imagine your arm is completely straight and someone is trying to pull it off out of your shoulder joint. If you're to just completely let it relax, it'll be a little bit painful. But if you're to tense up all your muscles, even though you're not changing the range of motion, you will be much more secure in the position with less damage happening to your body. Step 1, the initial clarity and connection. Now this is the moment where I walk up to the boulder and I take some very intentional breaths to clear the mind, to steady, to create the calm before I produce a silent eruption of prowess silently through my body. It varies from time to time, but there are initially 2 ways I like to caress the starting hold. The first is a gentle laying of my hands upon the starting hose in the correct, most optimal position. There's no force in my hands at the moment or any particular power going through my body. I am pretty totally relaxed. I then take a big inhalation of breath, and just as my breath begins to cease, I establish the position by crushing the living souls out of the hose, and my entire body, from my head to my toes, goes taut. All my muscles are contracting and I become one cohesive, functioning piece of machinery. And then I move. The second start that I do very often is I will lock my fingers into the correct starting position with some force. I do a test squeeze maybe once or twice to make sure that my fingers are indeed in the best starting position and I can indeed move securely from this position. I then firmly hold the starting holds like a firm handshake. I take in a deep breath, and just as my breath is about to die, I proceed to death grip the starting holds, tauten my body, and then I proceed to move. Step 2. The feet that holds me down. This is more so for overhangs more than any other angles really, but I take my feet and actively push it down against the foot holds. And because of the variance and the angles that your feet could be in sometimes, it's hard to give one concrete piece of advice. But for me, I don't particularly try to push as hard as possible. I simply try to maintain my foot positioning on the foothold for as long as possible. Sometimes toeing down is good, sometimes dropping the heel is better. Maybe straight on feet or sideways feet will lead me to my desired results. I really try to make it feel like my feet could support my entire body without the hands being on the wall, if that makes sense. And something that I do try to avoid is soft feet. This is where you basically place your feet on the hole as if it was a feather and you just let it lie there very limply. It's like throwing a limp hand over a hole and expecting it to hold, and it might hold, but the second you start to move, it will let go. So I constantly try to activate my feet to push against the hole some way, somehow. And this gives me a sense that I am connected to the wall via my feet. Though I do forget sometimes, you know. Step 3. Perfect means no next time. I don't think a sin with no mistakes truly exists. Oftenly. So I got it back into my head that Herculean effort can compensate for mistakes. I say back because the first time I did my first V7, I cut my feet. And I had done this sequence countless times beforehand without cutting feet. Much more efficiently, one would say. But perfect means no next time. So even though I cut my feet, I just kept on trucking. And then I got my first V7 from a launch pad of a mistake of cutting feet. But that mistake was covered up with tremendously thundering amounts of effort. And this wasn't the first time that something of this nature happened to me. Some of my hardest sins all had mistakes that had me questioning maybe I should restart because I wasn't as efficient as possible. But I do think that effort is what drives progression and not perfection that drives perfection. Of course, perfection does help from time to time. Step 4. Satisfaction in failure. If you try your very, very, very best with nothing held back, you garner a certain type of satisfaction regardless of ascension or failure. It's bittersweet, but sweet nonetheless, but also bitter. Kind of like living life with no regrets except life is too short. I did everything I could possibly do on this climb. I held nothing back, and with that, I can accept that today is not the day. Which now allows you to move on and try the next new problems with a clean conscience, clean brain thinking. And this Create an environment where you have super high quality reps and a variety of climbs instead of beating yourself over the head on one single boulder for 10 sessions straight, like a particular someone, maybe me. And so I'm trying to approach climbs like this again, because every now and then I do honestly forget to try hard, partly due to the amount of progression I've had over the years, right? Like when I used to struggle on V3s and 4s, but now I just walk up them like they're a ladder. But sometimes I fall because I underestimate it and I put a mental, physical block limiter on me. It's like I refuse to use V10 strength on a V4, but why? It's not like an actual V4 is gonna force actual V10 strength, and I get no special prize from using just the correct amount of strength. So you got to try hard and climb with nothing held back. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, partner.